Hello and welcome to my channel, Kaylee Creations. I'm Kay and this is part 3 of the tutorial for the Bee album that I created for Reneabouquets. In this tutorial we are going to go over how I cut the design paper to best optimize the use. And so we're going to get started with this one here. This is called Royal Command from the 12 by 12 pad. So I did use some of the 12 by 12, some of the A4 papers, and the 3 by 4 journaling cards, the 4 by 6 journaling cards, and maybe even a little bit of the 6 by 6. So anyway, so this first paper here, we're going to cut the pocket that is on page 5, and it's this angled pocket here. And we're going to cut the pocket this way so we can get the most use out of the rest of this side of the paper. So we're going to measure 4 3/4 and make a mark here from here to here, 4 3/4. Draw a 1-inch line from where that mark is on the edge of the paper, 1 inch into the paper, and then from here to here we're going to mark 6 inches. Then we're going to draw a line from the edge of the paper at 1 inch there, and then we're going to draw a line from one end of those 1-inch lines to the other, and so you'll have an angled line here. And so you're going to cut the paper from here to here, here to here, and here to here, and that's going to make your angled pocket. And then the next piece that we're going to cut is for the envelope on the last page. It's the inner lining. And I talked a little bit about how I made the envelopes and covered them in the first 2 tutorials. So I'm going to show you exactly how to cut that now. You can just, if you're doing it like this and you want it to cover the full entire envelope, you can just trace this here and then go down straight after you've gone over this edge here. As you can see how I've done it here. Or as I did it in my album, I had a 1/4 inch gap in between the edge of the envelope and the design paper. So I'll show you how to do that now. So you're going to cut a piece of cardstock, and this is just for a template. You're going to cut a piece of cardstock at 5.5 by 5.5, and then you will use your envelope punch board, and you will take one corner and round it on the corner rounder up here, and then you'll put that corner to the right and put this edge of the paper in the middle of the opening that's here. When you look down, there's an opening there. You want this in the middle, this edge of the paper. So you're going to punch here, and then you're going to flip it over like that, and then you want that rounded corner on the right up like that. So you're going to rotate it, and then the edge of this paper in the middle again, and punch, and then you'll have a design like this. So this is what I'm going to use to trace the paper. So I'm going to want it as far as I can to that right edge, and as far as I can to that top edge here, enough to trace this piece. And then once that's traced, cut it out. I don't want to cut this paper because I'm going to use it for another project. So let's just imagine that this is this piece here. And so I'm going to And I did talk about putting this envelope together in the previous tutorials, and you do need a magnet here, about here, and then make sure it hits the edge of that but not too close. So you're going to need a magnet here and here. And if you're worried about the magnet, you could always put it on the back side here too. And once the magnets are in place, then you're going to glue this on. You don't want the magnet to go too high up in that corner, because if you want that 1/4 inch space between your envelope and your decorative paper, then you're going to glue just this side here, and you're going to glue it down onto the top part of the envelope. Now you do not want glue on your score lines, because then it won't give, or it won't move very well, and so that's what's going to cause your paper to crack. So I discovered that after I had made my album that you really shouldn't glue the bottom part down or get glue on the score lines, because it has to give a little bit when it folds. So once that's glued on, then you're good to go. If you feel like this paper's not going to move and it's got enough give moving and it's not really moving here, you could maybe tack the glue tack the end right here. But for the most part, I don't think you need to. That envelope should hold it in place once the top part is glued on. So that's how I did that. And then the third piece we're going to cut from this first sheet of 12 by 12. So we've cut the angled pocket here, and we've cut the envelope piece here. So now we're going to cut a piece going from left to right, 4 3/4, and from bottom to top, 6 3/4. And that is for the fold out on page 6, this piece here. See, this folds out like that, and this is the piece here. And so I think it's really helpful, especially with this album, to cut your papers, and then to what I do is I take a post-it note and I put it on where the piece of paper that I've cut, and then I would write, for example, I'd write inner envelope page 10, pocket on page 5, fold out page 6, and that way that helps keep track of your papers, because you do need to go through and ink your papers. And then also on the papers, anywhere there was a B, I put glossy accent on that B. So the whole entire album, all the B's have glossy accent on them. It took a while, yes, but I really like the look of that. I think it really made the B's stand out, and I really enjoy it. So you don't have to do that, but I do recommend it. And so that's going to take a while. You're going to need your pages are going to need to dry. So it's good just to start, cutting your papers, inking and doing whatever you need to do with the B's, and then set those aside and keep cutting your papers, and then glue everything in later. So that's my suggestion. So that's the first 12 by 12 of this Royal Command paper. The second paper, we're going to start here. We're going to go from left to right, and it's important that you start this way. So you're going to go from left to right at 6 3/8. So you're going to cut here like this at 6 3/8, and then you're going to set this piece that's cut off aside, and then you're going to cut this piece here. You're going to cut it from bottom to top 6 inches. And so you'll have this piece at 6 3/8 by 6 inches. And that is the cover. And so I will talk about the rest of the cover later, but this part of that piece we just cut is this part of the cover here. So the cover is kind of an illusion. It looks like it's all one paper, but it's not. I had to piece it together. Okay, and then you'll have another piece here that's left over, and this will also be 6 3/8 by 6. And so you just need to cut it to 6 by 6. And that is for the envelope on page 9. And this envelope is for a 3 by 4 card. So on your envelope punch board, it has the card size, the paper size, and the score line. And so the card size that I'm using is 3 by 4 for this envelope here. And so that paper size would be 6 by 6. So if you don't know how to use your punch board, there's lots of YouTube tutorials, and so you can go ahead and follow one of those and make your envelope here. Okay. Okay, so then we have this side left here, and so you're going to cut from the top 1/2 of an inch off the top, and then from that new top edge you're going to cut 6 1/2, from here to here 6 1/2, and from here to here 5 inches. And so that is for this right here. And just let me double check the measurements, because it seems to me, yeah, it is 5. I thought maybe it was 5 1/2, but it's not. It is 6 1/2, 5 by 6 1/2. Okay, and then that is the second paper. So the third paper that we're going to cut using this Royal Command paper is, you're going to cut this paper here, you're going to cut actually going to start from this side. So from right to left, you're going to cut 5 3/4. So 5 3/4. And then from the bottom to here, you're going to cut 7 3/8. And that will be page 5 here. And you'll notice that on my album, I have cut from this side. Well, I went through a lot of paper, because sometimes when I'm creating, I change my mind, or I do this and that. So I used what I had, but I'm showing you the most economical and most efficient way to cut the paper. So you might have enough paper to cut from this side. I would cut everything else first, and if you want, and then cut that and make sure you have enough paper if you want to cut from this side, but it really doesn't matter. I was going for the color, and so this side works just as well as this side for that page. And then you'll have this little section left over, and so you're going to cut along the edge of this design right here, this box, and then you're going to cut from the edge of that up to 2 3/4. and then you're going to cut this edge off from the rest of the paper, and then you're going to cut 4 3/4. So this box here is going to be 4 3/4 by 2 3/4. And this pocket goes on page 6 on this inner fold out here. It's this pocket right here. So I'm going to take this out. So this is a journaling card placed onto the pocket. So the pocket goes all the way, covers all the way on the bottom here. Okay. And then this last cut that we're making from this paper is we've used this whole side, so now we've got this side left. So you're going to turn it over, and you're also going to cut a 1/2 inch off the top here, and then you're going to cut from there, from your new top line, you're going to cut 6 3/4, and then you're going to cut from right to left 5 1/4. And that will be your mat, photo mat on, it'll be the photo mat that's on this page here, like that. Okay. Okay, so then on this paper here, I used the same paper that's in the A4 pad. And on the A4 pad, there's no gold foil, and the papers are thinner and not quite as long. So I think I have one right here from the paper pad. I don't have any more of this paper left in the A4 size. I pretty much demolished it when I was creating the album. I kind of wasted a lot of it, but so I don't have one to show you. So we're going to have to use our imagination a little bit. So this A4 paper I used to cut the back cover. Okay, so I used it to cut the back cover here, and I also used it to cut the spine, or used it for the spine. So for the back cover, you're just going to take one of the A4 papers and just cut wherever you want, and you're going to cut 6 3/8 wide by 7 5/8. Actually, I would do your 6 3/8 cut first. So cut either from right to left, you're going to cut 6 3/8, and then you're going to cut from top to bottom 7 5/8, and then you're going to have a piece left over that's 6 3/8 wide, and so you're going to cut from that. You're going to cut a piece that's 6 3/8, which it already is on one side, by 1 5/8. So that would be the piece that I use right here on the bottom of the cover. So when I'm ready to glue the cover on, I'm going to place this part first, and then I'm going to butt the top of this 1 5/8 inch piece next to that paper and glue it down. And I've covered that seam with the lace here. So that's how I made it look like all one page. And the reason for that is because I wanted this oval, which is in the bottom left corner, I wanted it to be in the top center of my album. So I had to cut the papers that way. So your second A4 piece of this paper, you're going to cut your spine. And even though it's skinnier paper and you're still going to have your butterfly on the top right and your bee on the bottom left. So you're going to want to cut the paper so that you have this oval with the butterfly near the top of the spine. And so I don't know how far the oval here, you can really see the oval here. It's with gold foil. It's kind of hard to see on camera here, but here's the top of that oval. And I don't know how far the top of that oval goes to the edge of the A4 paper. So I'm just going to tell you how much room I have, and then you can cut it from there. So from the top of the oval to the top edge of the paper is 1 1/4. So just measure from the top of your oval to 1 1/4, and if you need to, cut that rest off. I don't know if you'll need to cut it, but if you do, that's where you're going to cut it. And then from there, you're going to cut a piece that from top to bottom is 7 5/8. And then all you need to do now is to center 4 inches. So if you have a ruler that has a center mark, you're going to place that here, and then you're going to go out 2 inches and cut, and then go out 2 inches and cut, and you'll get your 4 inches. Now you do want to measure your spine. If you need to trim off just a little bit, then go ahead and do it, because you don't want to impede this fold here. If this paper is too wide and it goes over where that paper is going to bend, you're not going to get this paper bent all the way up. It's going to stick. It's not going to go all the way up. So you want to make sure that this does not cover over on your fold. So that's how I got this onto the center of the spine here. So you're only cutting 4 inches, so you should have another good 4 inches on the other side at least. So from there, you're going to cut from the left edge to the right edge of that leftover paper. You're going to cut 2.5 inches, and then you're going to cut either from the top or from the bottom. You're going to cut 7 3/8. So it's 2.5 inches wide by 7 3/8 inches tall. And that would be for this pocket on page 3. And then the final piece of paper that you're cutting is the mat that is inside this pocket. And so you're just going to take a piece of paper from the A4 pad and just cut 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. So that is all of that first design that we're going to be cutting. Whoops. Okay. So now we'll move on to this paper here. Excuse me. This paper is called Waiting for the One, in case you're using the single papers and you looking, but it's this paper here with the lady. And so on your first sheet of 12 by 12, you're going to cut from left to right 5 3/4 inches, and then from bottom to here at 7 3/8. And that is for page number 6. It's this page here. Got another card there. Okay. So then you have a piece here. Well, actually, let's finish this side here. So you've got that page cut out here, and you're going to have a bit of scrap paper here. So with this scrap, you're going to take your envelope that you cut here, and you're going to trace this part of the envelope onto this paper, and it's going to be the reverse side. So you're going to turn that little piece of paper over and use the B side. And so that's what I've done here, and I've traced it and glued it into the inner part of the envelope. And so now you have this side left. So on this paper, you're going to cut from right to left 5 3/4, and then you're going to cut from about an 1/8 inch above that leaf there on the paper. You're going to cut from there to here at 7 3/8, and that will be page 8. And so that's the first 12 by 12 paper. So the second of this paper, you're going to cut and for these two first cuts, it's going to be the B side, and you're going to cut from let's see, let me look at this again. Yeah, from left to right, you're going to cut 5 inches. And then you're going to cut and then you're going to set this paper aside, and then from here to here you're going to cut 7 inches, so you'll have a 5 by 7 piece, and that is for one of the inserts in the envelope. And I did round the corners on that. So, and then you're going to have a piece that is 5 by 5. So you're going to cut that on one side to make it 4 3/4 by 5. And that is for the background of this inner page, or this fold out here. So that's 4 3/4 by 5. And yes, it doesn't go all the way down because you got the pocket there is going to cover that up. So the paper actually only goes from here to here, but the pocket covers the edge. Okay. So now you're going to cut from right to left. Well, actually it's already at 7 inches. So we cut this at 5, so this would be a 7 by 12 piece of paper. And so from the bottom, you're just going to cut 5 in, or no, not from the bottom. You're going to go from bottom to to here at 5 inches to give you another 5 by 7 piece, and that is another photo mat for this insert here, and I did mount it onto white cardstock, and I did round the corners, so that goes, this section goes in the very first envelope. And so you should have a piece that is 7 by 7, and you're going to cut that to 5 5/8 by 6 7/8, and it's going to be this side here that you want. So this is for you know what? I don't remember what it's for. Oh, yes, I do. I'm sorry. Oh, my word. Okay, that's for this page here, and it's this background paper here on this fold out. And so that is so that's it for the 12 by 12. And so I used 3 papers for the from the A4 pad, and I don't have any more of that left either, so we're gonna have to use our imaginations. So the first 2 papers that I cut from left to right at 2.5 inches, and then from bottom to here at 6 7/8, and I cut 2 of those, and so that created, I glued those back to back, and then I rounded the corners and made cut these edges here and made a little tag. So I've got the lady on this side and the lady on this side. So those are those 2 pieces of paper back to back. And then I took the third, or another one of these A4 papers, and I cut again from this corner. I cut from left to right 6 1/8, and from bottom to here at 7 1/4, and that is the background paper for the inside cover. And so that is it for this paper. Okay, so this paper here, I use this paper to create the, or to pattern the, cover the envelope. And so I'm going to show you how I did that. So let me show you the envelope again. So right here, so I really wanted that B in the center here, and so I traced. So just imagine this is my blank envelope here. So I traced, I have that B is right here. And so I put my envelope where I thought the B would be pretty much in the center. And then I traced from here to here and all around and cut it out. And then because this has writing on it, so you do need to make sure that you keep the orientation right. So on the right side here, I took and traced this out, and then I traced the bottom, and then I traced like so. And so that's how I got the pieces for the envelope there. And you can kind of cut as you go and maybe save a little bit of paper here. You don't have to cut. I don't know if that makes any sense, but if the paper, say the envelope's only this wide, so if you cut that off here and then you trace from here, 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 and there, and then you've got that strip of paper left over, so in case you want some paper left over. And then okay, so from the next 12 by 12 piece of paper, you're going to cut from top, actually you're going to cut from left to right. You're going to cut 5 3/4. So just set this one aside for now, this side, and then you're going to cut from top to bottom, or to here you're going to cut 7 3/8. So that 5 3/4 by 7 3/8, and that is the background for page 7. And then you're going to have this section here, and it's already cut at 5 3/4, but then you're going to cut it to 3 inches tall. So it would be 5 3/4 wide by 3 inches tall. And that also goes on page 7. So this is page 7 here, and this is one of those pages that also is a bit of an illusion. It makes it look like it's all one paper and that the pocket is just this lace and pretty stuff sitting here, but actually that was just not quite enough to support this, and so I did the same thing like I did on the cover. I glued another piece of paper and made a pocket, and then I covered it with lace and ephemera so that it looks like it's all one page and that these papers are just kind of tucking into the middle of the page. Okay, so, and then you have this side left, and so I used this side, and I cut from 5 3/4 by 7 3/8, and that is for this page here, the background paper here. Okay, so that is everything that I cut. Well, not quite everything. Not quite everything. So I did cut, I'm not going to measure it right now. It's approximately 1 7/8 by, or 1 3/4 by 4 1/2-ish. So you're going to need just scraps of paper for this closure, and I used the same paper on the other side too. So I chose scraps of paper that had a B on them, so if you want to. And so that is the end of the buzzword paper. And so the next paper we're going to talk about is not right here. It must be under my, there it is. I was just looking at it from the wrong side. Okay, from this paper here. So this paper we're going to, this is called Sweet Taste. And this also I use to trace the second envelope. So this here, and I wanted these roses on the top. Oh, you can't really see it, can you? I wanted these roses on the top. Sorry, I just moved the camera around. Okay, lifting that book over. Okay, so I use this side. So I did the top flap here, and then I wanted this writing on the left side or right side, and so I did that there. And then I wanted and then I actually took that angle and used to trace this, so it kind of matched there. I don't know if that makes sense. So when I cut this paper, traced it at the angle, I kind of used the edge of that angle for this trace right here and got that on the bottom there. And on this side here, I think I cut some of this off and then took my new edge here and traced from here, because this is all pink on this one, so I must have cut it out of this here in the middle. And you know, I'm not sure if I mentioned on the other, because we already cut the inner part of this envelope, and I'm not sure if I mentioned that the inner part of that other envelope was this here, this paper here. So I don't know if you can get all of that out of one paper after you cut this sections out, but anyway, that's what I used to cut. So you need a piece this size for here. And okay, so you need another 12 by 12 piece of paper after you've cut all your envelope pieces, or not 12 by, yeah, 12 by 12, and then you're going to cut you're going to cut from top to here at 7 3/8, and you know, actually you're going to cut from this side again. So I would cut from top to here at 7 3/8, and then from this right corner you're going to go from right to left at 5 3/4, and that will be your background paper for page 3. And then the other side, you're going to cut from left. Well, you're going to turn it over, because this is the side that you're using, and you're going to have a piece that's 5 1/4 by 6 1/2. And then you're going to need another piece of paper that is 6 3/4 by 5 1/4. And I forgot to tell you, this first one is the first one that we cut, or not the first one. Page 3 is the first one that we cut, but then the second one would be this piece right here. And then your next one will be for page 3. No. Yes. Would be the 6 3/4 by 5 1/4 is this one right here. That goes in this pocket here. So, and that is it for this paper. We're doing good. Okay, so Kindness Tales is the next paper that we're going to cut. And I don't know where it's at. There it is. I don't know why they're all over the place. They're just hiding from me. Okay, so this paper, I want to show you this one first before I give you measurements so you get an idea of what we're doing here. So for this one here, I cut this background paper here, and then I cut this piece from a second sheet of paper and fussy cut it out and then mounted it exactly over on top of the original design, and I just glued it down on the side here. So we'll talk about that in just a second in a little more detail, but first, so you're going to cut 3 I think I wrote that down really weird. Let me make sure. Yeah. Sorry, my handwriting on that one wasn't very good. Yeah, so you're going to cut 3/4 off the side here first. And then once you've cut that 3/4 off, you're going to cut from right to left at 5 5/8. And then from bottom to here, you're going to cut 6 7/8. So you're going to have a piece that's 5 5/8 wide by 6 7/8. And then you're going to, that will be your first paper, that is the base paper for that page. Then you're going to fussy cut, and you're going to fussy cut this section here. It's easier to show you the one that I've already cut because I've inked around it and it's darker. So I'm going to show you what I did there in detail. So I'm going to zoom in. Okay, and I'm going to use my little, if I can find it, it was right here. I'll use my pencil as a pointer. So I fussy cut, and the corners are a little rounded, so I fussy cut that, but I went all the way up here and here, and then there's like a little section that looks like washi tape, and I fussy cut around that washi tape, or the, what looks like washi tape, and then I cut around here and down, then I cut the little wing that's sticking out from the paper, and then I cut this along the line where it looks like the paper's been ripped. So then what I did is, right here it looks like notebook holes where you've ripped the paper out of the 3-ring binder. And so I actually punched those out with an 1/8 inch, I think it was an 1/8 inch punch. And then I cut little lines in there to look like it really had been torn off a piece of notebook paper. And then I kind of bent it a little bit. It's not totally glued down right in that spot, so it looks like it's sticking up and kind of crinkly like a notebook paper would. And then I inked everything really good. On the bottom part here, I took my scissors and made the edges really rough, so it really does look like a torn piece of paper on the bottom. And then on the top here, I found some rose gold washi tape that I put over where it looks like there's washi tape. And then I inked that and fussy cut around it. And then I put this little trim here to kind of cover the bottom of that washi tape, and a little butterfly from Reneabouquets right here. And I just inked the edges really good and made it really grungy there. So then I've just glued it on. I didn't glue these little edges down where the notebook paper looks like it's ripping up, because I like that. So I glued about right here and here. So it makes a little tuck spot. So that is how I did that. And so that's all I cut. Well, it's pretty much all I cut out of that paper. I did cut a piece of that paper at 4 by 7 5/8 tall. So 4 wide by 7 5/8. And I used that for the inner part of my spine. But that's because, like I said, I had been fiddling around with the paper and I had lots of scraps. So if you have a scrap, use a scrap. It doesn't have to be this paper. You can have that whole other section of that paper to make a card or something. So just use a scrap piece of paper that's 4 by 7 5/8 for the part of the spine. And so you might not want to glue your spine on your book until you have a scrap paper, or if you've already cut a piece of paper, that's fine too. So you got lots of paper left for that piece. And then the very last piece is the journaling page. And so I have cut, I took one sheet and I cut all these, let me scroll back out. Jeez. Okay, so I took one piece and I cut all these out. And I've used some of them in the album. But this one here is on the inside back cover. And it wasn't quite large enough to cover what I needed to have covered, and so that's why I did the blue paper on the covers first and then did design paper over that. So, and let's see, and yes, I did glossy accent that little bee. So, okay, and did I talk about the third A4 paper for, I can't remember if I did. Did I tell, if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. So on the waiting for the one paper, I did use it's the same paper that we used to make the tag. I did cut a piece that is, and I think I did say that, but I'm just, for some reason I'm not remembering it, so I'm going to do it again. So 6 1/8 by 7 1/4, and that's the background paper for this page, or the inner cover. And then the last page that we have is, you're going to cut another one of these papers, but you're going to use this side here for a page. And so you're going to need 5 3/4 by 7 3/8 of this green check, and that is the background paper here. So that is it. That took a while, didn't it? So I'm going to stop here, and so that the next one, we'll talk about how to put the papers in and a little more about that. So anyway, thanks for watching and have fun. Bye.